We've got a lot to talk about on today's show. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown, the official headquarters of the Denver Broncos head coaching news, rumors, buzz, and boy, oh boy, is there a lot to discuss because this is really the head coaching search that just keeps on giving. If you were expecting a vanilla, bland coaching search, in a way you've gotten that because there's been very few leaks from the Broncos side, but also the roller coaster of the ups and downs, the lefts and rights. So let's get started, right? We're going to go through a lot of reports from all across the league, so stick with me here. We're going to start with this from Benjamin Allbright, who is well tapped into the Denver Broncos front office and ownership, and he tweeted out not long ago that from everything I've heard, it doesn't appear Sean Payton has much of a market. Jobs he wanted didn't open, a.k.a. Chargers and Cowboys. And outside of Denver, we'll see about Arizona, there just hasn't been much interest. Strong possibility he goes back to TV. We're going to get a lot of conflicting and just different reporting and whatnot. And that's fine because yesterday we were told there was a second interview for Sean Payton. Now, that doesn't seem like it's the case, a guaranteed fact here. But let's move on to the next report. This one comes from Jeff Duncan, who is well tapped in from the Sean Payton side of things, working for NOLA.com. Latest update on Sean Payton, Jeff Duncan tweets, he completed his interview with Carolina on Monday in Charlotte and will meet with Arizona officials Thursday, as previously reported. His second meeting with Denver has been delayed. In my opinion, the longer this goes, the likelihood of Payton staying at Fox increases. So the quick takeaway from that is Sean Payton doesn't like not being wanted, right? I don't know what game the Broncos are playing, but it feels a little strange that there were reports of they were going to fly him to Denver on Wednesday and do an interview on Thursday, and now he's going to Arizona? What's going on here? Why are they letting him go to another city where they could just not let him leave and say, hey, interview's done. Let's check out some houses. Let's look at the real estate market. Let's get you a new home. You are our new head coach. And the Broncos don't even get a second interview. Moving on, Zach Stevens from DNVR reporting, when speaking about the Broncos job, Breer from Sports Illustrated said, since Jim Harbaugh is out and Sean Payton might be too, and this is what we were kind of just talking about, Dan Quinn is positioned nicely. Not too shocking. He also added, the longer this drags out with Payton, I think the more likely it becomes that he stays with Fox instead of coaching. So now we're getting multiple reports, right? From Jeff Duncan, from Albert Breer, from Benjamin Allbright of if he is not offered a head coaching position in a very soon time, he'll just decide to do another season at Fox because the way he probably looks at it is, I'm not even all that crazy about these openings. You only get 2 head coaching chances most times. And if they're not lining up at the door to offer me $25 million, screw it. I'll go back. I'll wait for Mike McCarthy to have another postseason early exit, or Brandon Staley to get fired in LA, or Sean McVay to move to TV, and I'll take one of those jobs. Ultimately, this has just turned into high school prom drama of who's going with who's taking who. I don't want to go full Colin Cowherd on you guys, but the fact that we have reports of Denver bringing him in for a second interview and then delaying it so he can interview at a second team, this just makes no sense to me. This is starting to get a bit worrisome. Just a bit worrisome. So let me ask you this question. Are you concerned with the Broncos head coaching search? Scale for me 1 to 10. I'm still confident that the ownership, Greg Penner, the CEO, is doing a good job of finding a CEO of this football team and not what happened last time. But them delaying an interview with Sean Payton, I thought that was the number one guy, right? If that's the number one guy, what are we doing here? The only other alternative I can think of is they got blown away by D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco, and they're waiting post-Super Bowl, which the Vikings did last year with Kevin O'Connell, and it worked out pretty well for what it's worth here. Let's move on to some more reports now. So Howard Balzer, I think I got that right. He works in Arizona covering the Cardinals. He's a beat reporter down there, and he tweeted out more breaking news. Source told me Denver interview with Payton delayed. Cardinals in here. Cardinals next up in Arizona. So this is sort of what we're all just piecing together of these different reports of what is going on with Sean Payton. Now, I respect them for not rushing a hire like last year when they only did 1 second interview, Nathaniel Hackett. But can we get just one second interview scheduled? Right now, there's not any. And Sean Payton's already on his way to Arizona in the middle of this week in 2 days to interview with the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Broncos don't have a single second interview set up. That is not good. I'm going to come out and say it. That is not what I want to see. I understand they're taking their time and they're slow dancing a little bit here, but can we jumpstart this a little bit? Because I'll get to my worst case scenario later on in the video, but it's starting to concern me. Now, Adam Schefter had some really interesting things to say on the Broncos head coaching search and kind of just the NFL head coaching search, which ties into Denver, because you got to admit it, it's been a weird head coaching cycle. We are almost at the AFC and NFC championship games, and not a single hire has been made across the entire NFL. Why is that? Adam Schefter giving his thoughts on it. I think the league has wanted the teams to be very thorough and very diligent and not rush anything. And I think that teams have been more thoughtful and more diligent. I don't know that there's one candidate. Like Sean Payton would be that guy that just pops. He's the highest profile name out there. But you've got to compensate the Saints. If Sean Payton were a true free agent, he'd have been hired by now. Like, I don't think there's any doubt. Lock it up. But there are strings attached there. So teams, I think, are measuring that and are being careful about that and weighing what to do. And then when you get beyond that, it's like, who really jumps out to you? Now, I'm going to give you my take on this quote in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsor today, Athletic Greens. Today's show is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. You can get comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Now, I recently gave AG1 a try because I hated taking pills and vitamins and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. It also really helps me with starting my day on the right foot and getting into a healthier lifestyle. I start the day with making one great choice, AG1. And more healthy decisions then follow. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. All I do is just mix one small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing each morning. Done. I also really like that it costs less than $3 a day, which is pretty good if you ask me. Now, it's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. Win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. And you're going to find out about all the awesome benefits it comes with, like promoting gut health, supporting your immunity, plus boosting energy. athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I've got that link in the comments and the description of today's show. Getting back to our program now, to me it kind of sounds like what Schefter is pointing at is that all the teams that have interviewed Sean Payton, except for the Colts, so 4 out of the 5 vacancies, are facing the same issue. That is Sean Payton worth a first rounder, right? That's a tough thing for a GM to give up. Second, who is plan B? You know what I mean? Like Adam Schefter said, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of phenomenal next Sean McVay, up-and-coming young offensive coordinators garnishing a ton of buzz right now. A lot of defensive guys. And you look around the AFC and NFC championship games, a lot of offensive coaches right there. So I think teams are facing this issue of, do we want to give up a first for Sean Payton? No, maybe not. We're playing chicken with the rest of the other openings. And if we don't give up a first for Sean Payton, do we have a good plan B? I mean, when you look at Sean Payton's interviews, for example, the Denver Broncos, Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Houston Texans. Now, all these teams have some pros and cons to them in terms of the lens of Sean Payton, but I can also see a little bit why of Sean Payton's a fantastic Hall of Fame coach, but teams are resistant to giving up draft capital, especially first rounders, even though we've detailed in this show a late first rounder is not as valuable as us couch GMs like to think it is. But I thought this quote from Adam Schefter was really interesting. Denver, I think, is appealing. Houston, I think, is appealing. Arizona, I don't know that would be as appealing as the other places. But again, let's see how this week shakes out. So now let's revisit this list of places that Sean Payton interviewed here. The Broncos, their kind of biggest thing that they can bring to the table is fantastic ownership that will spare no expense. As a head coach, that's great to see. Hey, our team is playing week 18. We don't have a great field. No problem, coach. $400,000 Bermuda grass en route to Mile High. The Texans, they've got the draft picks, right? They've got their own first. They've got Cleveland's first. That's 2 top 16 picks right there. The Cardinals, they have a new GM, which I don't think Sean Payton is all about getting in bed with, right? He wants to go somewhere where he can almost be his own little GM a little bit. Not go somewhere where a GM is trying to make his name and call all the shots. And then there is the Carolina Panthers, which it's going to require more trade compensation. The Panthers, it sounds like, will have to give up 2 first-round picks for the Saints to agree to trade him within their own division. Maybe Carolina goes, we like Sean Payton, but not at the price of 2 first-round picks here. We're going to get to more head coaching buzz and kind of recap some other reports in just a moment. But if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Listen, you don't want to be the dumb guy at the water fountain who doesn't know what's going on with the Broncos head coaching search, right? You don't want to be the guy who's behind in the group message. So stick it right here at the channel and help us reach 11,000 subscribers today. Let's talk about our friend Dan Quinn now. So Dan Quinn and the Cowboys out of the playoffs, which makes it a little bit easier for the Broncos to, streamline that hiring if that was their number one candidate. So we've got some other interesting quotes I want to share with you guys because that's sort of been the theme of today's show, just rounding up all the reports out there. Let's look and see what Albert Breer said from Sports Illustrated in his latest column, okay? Albert Breer wrote, Cowboys DC Dan Quinn is now fully available, and I think that would probably mean he'll go meet with the Broncos in person soon. Quinn was on the coaching staff in Seattle with Russell Wilson, is tight with Denver GM George Payton, and nearly was their hire last year. Since Jim Harbaugh is out and Sean Payton might be too, Quinn is positioned nicely. But once again, it's the Arizona Cardinals cucking the Broncos because Tom Pelissero tweeted out that the Cardinals are flying in Dan Quinn tonight for a second interview for their latest head coaching job. Quinn is also a candidate for the Broncos and the Colts, but if Denver takes this too slow and Dan Quinn, here's my worst case scenario right now. Sean Payton decides none of these jobs are for me. I'm staying at Fox, right? And Dan Quinn flies out to Arizona. The Cardinals don't let him leave. They give him the job. All of a sudden, Denver is out their 1, 2, 3 top guys before they even get a second interview in. That would be nightmare shit right there, right? They have got to get a bit of a move on if all these other teams are on their second wave of interviews here. And if that happens, watch for David Shaw. I like Raheem Morris, but it sounds like David Shaw is the safety valve, right? He is the last line of defense. He is plan D or wherever we are after striking out on the top 3 guys potentially. So there's been a lot of buzz about this. We'll kind of run through some of these reports. We'll start with this from Zach Stevens, who earlier this week, just yesterday, no candidate has gained more traction in the Broncos head coaching search than David Shaw. He certainly shouldn't be ruled out now. We go back to last week, okay? Mike Klis tweeting out this. Sleeper candidate has emerged for Broncos. Former Stanford coach David Shaw. There have been ongoing discussions between Penner and candidates following interviews. Shaw, a pro-style coach at Stanford, knows the NFL game as he was a 9-year assistant with the Eagles, the Raiders, and the Ravens. It's not just these 2 guys here. Vic Lombardi, kind of a national sphere, if you will. If Sean Payton is too pricey, keep an eye on David Shaw for the Broncos head coaching gig. I know Condi loves him. This is Condoleezza Rice, not just Condoleezza Rice, who has a Stanford connection, but also the Penners as well. One-word reaction? No, please. I'm not going to go full Michael Scott because I'm really scared that I might get to this point, but no David Shaw, right? He is a college coach, which we have seen some college coaches like Harbaugh, so it would be a little bit hypocritical of me to say you can't hire a college coach. But he's a college coach that's won 14 games total in the last 4 seasons. If you're going to get a college coach, he better be a really good one. And David Shaw has not been that the last 4 seasons. In fact, look at what David Shaw has done at Stanford. 3 wins this year. 3 wins last year. 2020, only 6 games, 4 wins. Year before that, 4 wins. I mean, he hasn't had a winning season, excluding 2020, which is a Mickey Mouse year anyway, in the last 4 years. 2018, 9-4. 2017, 9-5. But look at the drop-off in the last half decade, pretty much. Go back even further, though. This is where David Shaw really became a household name. 2011, 11-2. He had some great times with Andrew Luck, well, brief times at least. But he sort of rode the Jim Harbaugh coattails after he left Stanford for the 49ers. And he had some great classes there. I'm sure he did some great things too. But those great things were 10 years ago. The guy's won 14 total games in the last 4 seasons. What are we talking about here? What are we doing? Come on, right? He might have great leadership skills, and he might have great stability. And I preach those things too. But he also has to have some level of winning, like 500. We're not even close to that, right? You exclude a 6-game 2020 season, last 3 years pretty much, 3 4-win seasons. No, like I understand how disappointing it might be if Denver swings and misses on Harbaugh, Quinn, and Payton, which at this point, can you even call it a swing if they're not aligning a second interview yet? But David Shaw, it'd be meltdown mode at the channel if he is hired as head coach. So I think it's pretty clear how I feel about it, but I want to know what you have to say. Would you like a David Shaw hiring as the 20th head coach in Denver Broncos history? Let me know in the comment section below to wrap up today's video.